Tonight, allegations Virginia's Attorney General calls very serious.
Mark Herring is now involved in the search for answers about how questionable signatures got on ballot petitions in the 2nd Congressional District race. We've learned he's been in touch with the special prosecutor and the Department of Elections to try and figure out what happened in the petition drive to get Sean Brown on the ballot.
13 News Now investigative reporter Laura Geller joins us now with her investigation.
Well, the AG's press secretary tells me he will continue to work with the special prosecutor and elections officials while the investigation and information gathering process continues. This latest development comes as the Virginia Democrats are asking Herring to order the State Board of Elections remove Sean Brown from the ballot.
Most people don't expect to see their names on the news.
Y'all happened to show us a paper with the names on it, and my name just happened to be right front and center. Especially
when you weren't the one to write your own name and signature.
At first I was hoping maybe there was another Nicole Bolt, but it wasn't, and that's my address, and clearly did not sign it.
Nicole Bolt is the latest example of someone who says her signature was forged on petitions to get Sean Brown on the ballot. We've uncovered signatures of a dead man, a woman who hasn't lived or voted in Virginia for years, and a state delegate.
It was very shocking. I was like, wow, people can just write anybody's name on a petition and turn it in.
I also spoke with Sean Brown today. She tells me no one but the people should choose who the people are. That's democracy. It's about the fight and leveling the playing field for everyone. But how does this race continue now? We asked the State Board of Elections how it will proceed, if there are any protocols for examining signatures after a candidate has already been approved to be on the ballot. A spokesperson said they have no comment at this time due to an ongoing investigation. So we went to UVA's Center for Politics for more insight.
I've done some searching in the election code, on the State Board of Elections website. I've even delved into some searches in historical newspapers from Virginia. I couldn't find a parallel to this, and I really don't know how the State Board of Elections handles this. This is an unusual circumstance, to say the least.
An unusual circumstance putting an entire congressional district in the spotlight.
Maybe that's why the Attorney General should be involved.
Tonight, we also have new reaction from Scott Taylor, whose staffers collected some of the signatures in question. He says, "We agree that problematic signatures should be invalidated, but we think it's inappropriate and offensive for the National Democratic Party to hijack a local primary election." Laura Geller, 13 News Now.
Lynn Lurie, who is the Democratic candidate in the race, also reacting to the investigation, saying in part, "Given this information and the pending criminal investigation, it seems proper that the entirety of these petition forms are reviewed thoroughly."